Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Whistle. Today is Season 4, Episode 5, and we have a great episode in store. Where NFL is coming off a crazy Week 7. We had the Hail Mary walk-off by Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. Tyreek Stevenson probably getting yelled at by Matt Eberflus in that Bears locker room for hyping up the wrong crowd. And we saw a lot of great games. The Jets, Jason, they suck. We saw a lot of great one-score games, like 10 of them being decided by one possession or less. So without further ado, let's get straight into that. I'm Henry Lapin, joined by Rob Frangione, Jason Generalis, and Danielle O'Malley, and we cannot be more excited to bring you guys today's episode. So, Rob, what do you think you can tell us about that just crazy Week 7?
I mean, yeah, you're saying a lot of very close games, and a lot of them, honestly, closer than they should have been. Packers should not have escaped the Jags by only 3 points. Cardinals, Dolphins, I kind of predicted that. Both teams are just, calling them mid is pretty generous if you ask me. Patriots, baby. Danielle, I know we're happy about that.
So happy.
Jason, how are we feeling? How are we feeling about the Patriots today? Or the Jets, I should say.
I mean, we have to cut the kicker. We have to re-sign. We just have to cut the whole team. At this
But
point,
it was Salah's fault, though, right?
It was not. It was never Salah's fault.
Yeah.
Salah's on the Packers. Yeah.
A winning team.
I'm sure. I'm
happy.
happy. I'm happy
familiar
for him.
with.
I'm happy that he could escape our franchise.
I mean, you had Jameis Winston, who showed that he can still be that guy. Eagles really surprised me. They really kind of took over that game versus the Bengals. And Anthony Richardson, Henry, how are we feeling about Anthony Richardson?
I mean, I think his stats at one point were 2 of 15 for 81 yards, a touchdown, and interception, which is just
and one of those completions was a 69-yard touchdown pass.
Yeah, I mean that's just the most Anthony Richardson stat line of all time. He took himself out of the game because you're fat. You're too unathletic to play the quarterback position, and now you got benched by 41-year-old Joe Flacco, who should probably just be like a substitute teacher out of high school. I don't know how he's still an NFL quarterback. I love it, though. Anthony Richardson, you don't deserve to start after you take yourself out of the game.
I saw someone call him the Cam Newton of Deshaun Kaiser's. What do you think? Is that a good?
I think that's disrespectful to Deshaun Kaiser. Jason, what do you think, besides your Jets?
Obviously, the Sunday slate had a great games, but I think we're forgetting, the Thursday night game was super intense. Obviously, the face mask call at the end was very questionable for the safety, given the Rams the win. But, that was a great game, and you're going in. You had a couple of blowouts. Obviously, the Lions and the Chargers really ran away with their games. But Falcons, Bucks, obviously Washington and the Bears came down to the last play. Just a ton of good games, interesting to watch. National Tight Ends Day on Sunday. I think every tight end saw a great touchdown.
Except Hunter Henry.
Except Hunter Henry. Although you won without it. You didn't need it.
Yeah. What a day to be at.
Would have been nice to be
Hunter Henry
5.
seemed like the only guy that could catch a ball at one point during that game.
He did.
It was honestly very frustrating. Still surprised the Patriots pulled out with that win. Thank you to the Jets kicker for that. I'll talk more about him later. But as a Patriots fan, I know the Patriots should not have won that game. But that aside, the other surprise for me from the week was the Rams-Vikings game. I have a lot of faith in Sam Darnold, and he really let me down in multiple ways this week, especially in my spreads. But you're right, Packers should not have pulled away with that game. Obviously, with the Jordan Love injury, that really shocked me. And then, obviously, Browns-Baltimore, I was only able to catch the end of that game, but that's the only part I really needed to see with the Hail Mary play and, obviously, Tyreek Stevenson. That was just icing on the cake, honestly. Icing on the cake.
Yeah. So now we're getting into our Player of the Week award. So, Rob, a lot of people you can choose from. Who do you got here?
Yeah, big week this week. I was almost considering CeeDee Lamb, but he didn't really do anything up until the last quarter of the game. And if he had done anything in the rest of that game, he would have been my player of the week. But I'm going with James Cook, who was on my team, and he was the reason why I beat one of my friends by 2 points. 17 carries for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. And to tack that on, he had 3 catches for 22 yards, which amounted to 28.3 fantasy points. Falcons fans hate hearing that number. Josh Allen, he still had a great game with 283 yards, again, 20-3, and 2 touchdowns. But I think James Cook really did a lot of the work, and he was really the main factor in that win over Seattle. It was just a blowout. I think it was 31-10. And when you have a running back who can really do the bulk of the work without your quarterback having to do too much, I think that's a sign of a good football team, and that's why I'm going with James Cook for my player of the week.
Yeah, he definitely had a great game. I'm going with Jameis Winston. Just incredible guy. The greatest pregame speeches you have ever heard. I mean, I would run through like a brick wall for Jameis Winston. He's taken over for Deshaun, Bill Cosby Watson, and he went 27 of 41, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's showing that Watson was the problem on that. Oh my God. For that organization. It's not Kevin Stefanski. He doesn't need Amari Cooper. He just needs him and his boys going out there and balling out. So just Jameis Winston, just great guy, great quarterback. He's still showing what he showed at FSU with the Browns. And Jason, who do you got? Player of the week.
I have Jalen Hurts in a game that I thought would be close, with the Eagles kind of keeping it close with, I think, the Browns the week before, the Bengals picking up steam after that Week 1 loss to the Patriots. But Jalen Hurts really showed out. He went 16 for 20 with 236 yards, 1 touchdown in the air with that like crazy play to Devontae Smith.
Beautiful throw.
He had 3 rushing touchdowns as well. I mean, I think it was amounted to like 35 fantasy points, and obviously he ran away with that game at 37, like 17, something like that. But the Eagles, I mean, are showing that they're still a team that could be like feared, be threatened with. I think so. I think the Bengals defense is not that bad.
No, the Bengals defense is terrible.
I don't think that. I think the Bengals defense has been holding teams to good teams to like less points this week, even though they're losing.
The Ravens scored 48.
The Ravens are a good team. They have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson.
They're holding good teams to a low number of points. They've been awful, man.
I don't know. I didn't expect the Eagles' offense to be that caliber. The Eagles' offense has been awful this year. I mean, obviously you had A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith missing for a couple weeks.
Which, like I said last time, Nick Sirianni is entirely to blame for all that.
Yeah.
So,
Danielle, who do you got?
I got Josh Jacobs, the Green Bay running back. As we said before, Green Bay should not have won that game, and he's definitely, I think that he played a big factor in the win. He ran for 127 yards, 25 carries, 2 touchdowns, one of them a receiving touchdown, something we haven't seen from him this year. So that was definitely something. And he also had a 38-yard score in the third quarter, which was a really big play after Jordan Love went down. So he held up the team once when Jordan Love was injured. I think he can do it again. And he obviously proved he could do it again in that game last week. So I got Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, Jordan Love with a strained groin. I know Deshaun Watson wishing he had that, so a couple more massages sent his way. So Rob, underachiever of the week. I know I'm going on a rant, but who do you have?
I'm not going to go in as big of a rant as last time. I'm going DJ Moore, receiver for the Bears. I mean, against the Commanders in a game that you really need to win, especially in that, jam-packed NFC North division, he had 2 catches for 27 yards and 2 rushes for 7 yards. That's like a Tyreek Hill stat line when his quarterback is anybody else but Tua. And I said, basically disappeared in one of the biggest games of the year, which is just something that you can't be doing, especially as Caleb Williams is number 1 receiver. If he can't show up in big games, that's going to be an issue down the stretch.
Yeah, so the Giants organization, starting from Mara, Daboll, Shane, everyone top to bottom. Yeah, there's a paragraph.
He's got a lot of stuff written on that.
Right on here.
Right there.
I think that was the worst play in my life, that 2-point conversion. You had 5 offensive linemen lined up to the left side of the field. Daniel Jones snapped the ball, and none of them blocked. They all just stood there like statues watching Highsmith just destroy Malik Neighbors. Brian Daboll refuses to make a quarterback change. I don't know what kind of secrets Daniel Jones is doing to Daboll in that locker room, but it is keeping him his job. It was 26-18. It felt like a blowout. Since October 9th, the New York Mets have outscored the Giants 30-28. And the Mets got shut out twice in those 7 games that I'm talking about since October 9th. That's just sad. Daniel Jones has 6 touchdowns this year. Mara is paying him $3.1 million per touchdown.
We're not even halfway through his, by the way.
Out of the last 8 years, the Giants have started 2-6 or worse. That one year going when Daboll somehow, using black magic, took the Giants to the playoffs. All right, this is my favorite stat, though. Daniel Jones has not thrown a touchdown at MetLife Stadium since the start of last year. The following players or people have: Tommy DeVito, Desmond Ridder, Tim Boyle, Mac Jones, 20 soccer players, 6 NHL players, a punter, and 4 defensive backs. That's just sad. You've had a punter, a bunch of people playing the fake football, and hockey players score more at your stadium than you. And 115 in primetime, and it's not even the offense, because the defense has 3 players top 12 in the league in sacks right now. Dexter Lawrence probably winning Defensive Player of the Year at this point, but you still suck. Everyone sucks, and just burn down the building, restart the organization from the ground up. that's enough. I'll get into the other New York team later.
Hey, but at least you have neighbors over there.
And yeah, and he's about to go on a fit because playing with Deshaun Watson, he's gonna do it a Henry Ruggs or something. Go 150 in a Lambo down some street in Vegas. So Jason, take it away for me.
All right, so I have someone who actually recorded a career high for a couple of their things. They had 9 total tackles with 7 solo tackles, and it would have been a fantastic game for this person if he did not hype up the crowd and tip the Hail Mary to the opposing defender to lose the game. Tyreek Stevenson, you are the underachiever of the week. The game is not over. You have to knock the ball down. He had his hand up. He just tipped it right up to the defender. Just did not need to do that. And, I mean, obviously everyone's seen the clip so far, but he's getting chewed out. He's still getting chewed out even like 4 days later. He will definitely be riding the bench a lot next week.
I mean, he apologized on Twitter, and those comments just were not nice.
Yeah.
They were not kind to him. Like any respectful Chicago Bears fan, they were just not polite. Huh. So, Danielle, underachiever.
Underachiever of the week, I've got to go Greg Zuerlein, the New York Jets kicker. I know Jason's really happy to hear this, and as a Patriots fan, I'm even happier to hear it. So, Zuerlein missed a 42-yard field goal and one of his 2 extra point attempts. The Jets lost 25-22. They would have won the game had he made all of those. Just want to make sure you know that. So, he's also missed the most field goals in the NFL this year, and he's blown 2 other games. The Patriots, obviously, and then the Bills and Broncos game, he blew those. I was actually reading yesterday that the Jets hosted a 6-man kicker competition. So, you might be seeing a better kicker, but for this week, Greg Zuerlein blew the game. I can't be upset about it, but I'm sure Jason.
If I don't get a notification that Greg Zuerlein is cut and we signed another kicker by next week, I'm considering switching franchises.
Send him to
We
Hong
would never
Kong.
do that.
Yeah. So, now we're going to our starts and sits of the week. Fantasy, it's bad for me. I am 4-4. It's just really,
I'm
really
2-6
Ooh.
in a punishment league.
5-3 in both leagues. Not looking too bad.
Yeah, so I need a lot of fantasy advice. It looks like Jason needs it a little more than me. So, Rob, who should we start in fantasy this week?
So I'm starting someone who I have in both my leagues. I'm going Chuba Hubbard versus the Saints, who I'm actually starting over Josh Jacobs. He's projected for 14.3 points this week. And, I mean, the Saints defense hasn't really been great against the run this year. They allowed 57 yards and a touchdown versus J.K. Dobbins last week. And I think that Hubbard and Dobbins are very similar players. I think that they're honestly pretty similar teams. Panthers and Chargers. Obviously, the Chargers are going to be a lot better. But and he's also got better receiving upside, I'd say. So, yeah, this week, like I said, I'm going Hubbard over Jacobs. And if you go down, I'm going down with you. That's my advice.
Yeah. So I'm starting Bo Nix. He looked great last week against the worst defense in football, which Sean Payton said that in his interview. He called the Carolina Panthers the worst defense in football. And Bo Nix he balled out, though. 28-37, 284 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. In every game this year, Bo Nix either has 60 rushing yards or a touchdown on the ground. So his white boy wheels, Vanilla Vic, he's running the ball well on the ground. Baltimore's defense just got lit up by Jameis Winston, and they're the 30th ranked defense against the pass this year. So I fully expect Bo Nix to ball out against the Baltimore defense. They're probably going to be playing from behind, so that means a lot of passing attempts for Bo Nix. Jason.
Now, obviously, on National Tight Ends Day, there are a lot of tight ends that showed out. You might be wondering who to start, who to sit with everyone having such a monster performance. I'm telling you, you should start Cade Otton right now. He has the 2 starting receivers injured. Although he didn't start out the season well, he ended with negative 0.4 points one game. I think he had a carry. He lost 4 yards. They didn't give him the ball the rest of the game. But now with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans out, he saw 10 targets. He had 9 receptions, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Obviously, you can't expect that monster performance going into this week, but you could still expect him to get more targets. You could still expect him to get yards and touchdowns. I just think he's the overall wide receiver 1 on this team. He's the only person that Baker could throw to. They have like an okay on the ground with Bucky Irving and Rashad White, but I really think that just Cade Otton is going to be a pivotal part of this offense if they want to win more games, and obviously they will.
I played against him a couple weeks ago in fantasy, and his garbage time points against the Ravens was what made me lose that game. And I mean, yeah, he's been a guy who's held onto the ball through a lot of
When
contested catches.
when Chris Godwin went down, I picked him up in all of my leagues.
As much as I despise him for losing me a game against Ryan Bollinger in fantasy 2 weeks ago, I gotta respect the guy. He's been doing very well in the absence of Godwin and Evans.
Yeah. All right, Danielle, who do you got?
My fantasy start for the week is Tennessee running back Tony Pollard. He had kind of a lackluster performance last week in comparison to some other weeks. He got 14.7 points after 94 rushing yards and 3 receptions for 23 receiving yards. No touchdowns. However, the Tennessee Titans are playing the New England Patriots this week, and as much as I hate to say it, the Patriots defense sucks.
Awful.
The Patriots on average, have given up 23 points to opposing running backs this year, and I feel like that's all that needs to be said. Given Pollard has been pretty consistent this year, I see him getting to that, maybe even higher. So I think that he'd be a smart start this week against an awful Patriots defense.
Yeah, Tank Bigsby, I had him a couple weeks ago against the Patriots, and yeah, he really got me those points that I needed.
Exactly. So I can totally see Pollard winning me my game against...
Not me.
Not you? Okay. But against one of Jason's family members this week.
All right. So now we're going to who we should keep away from our lineups. Rob, who is hitting the bench in fantasy?
I will be sitting Nick Chubb versus the Chargers. I was very excited when I got him in the 9th round, coming off of that injury. But I mean, so far in his return, he really just hasn't been great. And I mean, I love the guy, but that's what's going to happen after you come off such an insane knee injury. And his return, just in general, is great. In 2 games, he's had 74 yards. If it weren't for that touchdown versus Cincinnati, his stat line would look a lot worse. And Stefanski, the coach, says that they're monitoring his return and that he looks good. And that, I mean, he's been moving the ball well, but that they're still going to be phasing in Jerome Ford, and I think they've got Foreman in there. Last week, Kamara was limited to 67 yards versus the Chargers, and most of his points came from receiving, which that Chubb really isn't really known for. And yeah, so I'm just not expecting him to do great this week. That's why I'm sitting him.
Yeah, so I'm sitting another running back. Maybe a little controversial. I'm having Josh Jacobs on the bench this week.
Valid.
They are playing the Detroit Lions, who have been phenomenal against running backs this year, limiting them to 5 or fewer receptions in all but 1 game this season. And Jacobs just not a receiving back, meaning his value is only going to come from the ground, where the Lions surrender 4.15 yards per carry on the ground this season. And Jacobs, he's definitely going to be touchdown dependent this week because the Packers are going to be playing from behind the second half on, probably, I assume. So Jacobs, not a receiving back. They're going to do a lot of passing, no matter who's the quarterback. Love with that banged up groin, or Malik Willis. I hope it's Willis. He's just incredible player to watch, having a career resurrection there. Josh Jacobs, though, he's going to hit the bench for me in fantasy this week.
I have a little bit opposite of what you have. I have Jaden Reed hitting the bench in fantasy this week. I mean, he started the season phenomenal. He was the wide receiver 4 after week 5, I think. It was something like that. But, I mean, last game against the Jaguars, who don't have a great defense, he saw 3 targets, 2 receptions, and 55 yards. And Romeo Doubs, who was thought to be the wide receiver 2 or even 3 behind Christian Watson, saw 6 targets with 3 receptions and 72 yards. I think it's kind of clear you're seeing a little shift. Josh Jacobs has been playing well, so you're not giving the ball to your receivers as much. But I think against this Lions defense, I think Jacobs is going to get the ball a decent amount at the start of this game. And then I think if they go into passing, if they're down, they're going to go to Romeo Doubs or Christian Watson. I just don't see Jaden Reed being a pivotal factor in their win. He's been projected a lot of points due to the start of his season being so well. It obviously depends who's playing, but with Malik Willis, you definitely wouldn't want to start him.
I feel like with Willis, he hasn't really thrown to Reed as much. So if he's plays, then I think you're right.
Yeah. All right, Danielle, finish it out.
Fantasy sit for the week, it's got to be Tyreek Hill for me. He kind of underperformed. He's been underperforming since Tua's been out. Tua's back, still underperforming. He only had 6 receptions for 72 yards last week, 13.2 fantasy points, and they're playing the Bills this week. Historically, Tyreek is not that great against the Bills. He has recorded 3 or fewer reception in the 2 of his last 3 games against Buffalo, and like I said, been underperforming. Tua just came back. Their connection doesn't seem quite there yet. So I think in the future, he'll be back to the old Tyreek that everyone knows. But this week, it's just not it for me, especially when personally I have a pretty strong receiving core. So he just needs to be on my bench this week.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. All right, so that's going to round it out for us today for Beyond the Whistle, Season 4, Episode 5. And Jason, I think the Jets, they're just going to be horrible the rest of the year. Rodgers thinks he's still on ayahuasca. You guys used 3 timeouts first quarter.
Yeah, I was watching that. What was that?
Yeah.
I'm sitting there with my sister. I'm like, what are they doing? They had like 3 minutes left in the first quarter, and all their timeouts are burned.
Yeah.
What was that?
Rogers is talking to the trees. He's still on a darkness of tree on.
Yeah,
the
he's
highway.
trying to get the whole
trying to get
Jets
the whole
team
team
in the
to do that,
darkness.
right?
out of the darkness.
I think it made him worse.
Yeah. All right, so that's going to round it out for us today. I'm Henry Lapin, joined by Rob Frangione, Jason Generalis, and Danielle O'Malley. Thank you for watching today's episode, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much.